أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. صلوات بجميع. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As it was announced, this is the last majlis of this series of majalis that began from the first day of Muharram al-Haram. And in these 12 nights, I chose to discuss under various ayat of Quran the discussion of muttaqeen, taking inspiration from this wonderful khutbah of Nahj-ul-Balagha number 193, which explains the sifat of muttaqeen and narrated by Amirul Mu'mineen, taught to one of his companions by the name Hammam, who was eager and had requested Imam to explain to him what are the attributes of muttaqeen so that he may be able to see them. And therefore Imam resisted, Imam hesitated, but still when he went further and there was israr in his talk, Imam then related this 110 points in reference to the attributes of muttaqeen. And therefore tonight, being the last night, I'd like to thank everyone for continue to come and to listen and to pay attention to what I had to say. Yes, the discussions sometimes could be very dry, and usually the month of Muharram and these Ayyam Azam, it is important that we talk about the fadail of Ma'sumeen and the fadail of Amirul Mu'mineen especially. And we concluded last night that in fact the sifat of muttaqeen, if you want to see who the muttaqeen are, this taqwa cannot be attained without the wilayat of Maulana Muttaqiyan Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. When Rasulullah was ordered to do the tabligh, the only ayat which addresses with the word balligh, there is no other hukum that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Holy Prophet starting with the word balligh. So when the hukm of namaz came, it says, وَأَقِمَ الصَّلَاةِ. When the hukm of fasting came, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ. When other ahkam were revealed, they were revealed with some sort of, instructions for making it wajib. When the ahkam came for something which was haram, the ayat began by saying, or concluded by saying, وَاجْتَنِبُوا, refrain from it. These are haram for you, for example. إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسَرُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ وَالْأَنْصَابُ رِجْسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. So when alcohol and gambling and all of those things that are related with it, that hukm came. It was made haram, it came with an instruction, فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ, stay away from it. So the word balligh was not used any of those occasions. The only place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually uses the word tabligh, because what is tabligh? Tabligh is to propagate. The only place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word tabligh is only when the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen was announced. So Allah says to the Holy Prophet to balligh, not abligh, rather balligh, which is more in line with more pressure, with more emphasis that this is the tabligh that has to be done. So the Holy Prophet is doing the tabligh of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Then those who sit on the member of the Holy Prophet, they should also be doing the tabligh of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And if that tabligh is not done from this member, then the haqq of the tabligh is not been paid. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Holy Prophet, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. And if you do not do that tabligh, then you have not done any tabligh at all. If you do not propagate about the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, then you have not propagated anything at all. That means the 23 years of hard work of the Holy Prophet, in which he gave his heart and soul in propagating this deen, in which he faced so many things and persecution and whatnot, all of that on one side, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. Yes, Rasulullah will definitely go ahead and do the tabligh of that. So Rasulullah is being commanded to do the tabligh. So you and I are also commanded to do the same tabligh, and you as the listeners are also commanded to listen to that tabligh as well. Without that tabligh, this member is incomplete. Without that instruction, the haqq cannot be given. And therefore, this is part of Majalis Aza. And yes, and that is the reason on and off we had those discussions in between as well. But more importantly, the tabligh of the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen was done by the Holy Prophet. Now the main tabligh is so that you and I remain firm on this wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen by learning from what Masumeen have given to us. Because the haqq of muhabbat and the haqq of ishq and the haqq of wilayat, because the word wilayat also has the connotation of love. From wala, the word has the connotation of love. The haqq of love with someone is that you go ahead and listen to their instructions, you go ahead and follow what they have said, and that is something which is, they will be questioning us. So therefore, this was just an effort to enlighten ourselves, because we rarely get to read these things. I know the life which is very quick, which is very fast moving life that you and I live in, there's a very tough life that many of you have. The life schedules and the daily schedules from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and then not really having any energy for anything aside from, taking care of the family, coming back home, being with the children, and all that stuff occupies you that you rarely have any time to read anything other than Quran. We make an effort to at least go ahead and recite Quran on a daily basis. So aside from Quran, there really isn't any other recitation or reading that is done on our behalf. And therefore, this is one opportunity that these Majalis Aza serve this purpose, so that when we come, at least we have gained something from it. Therefore, someone who leaves having attended these 12 nights, if nothing else, at least they'll know this was a khutbah of Amir al-Mu'mineen from Nahj-ul-Balagha. They will not forget the number, it's 193. They will not forget who it was related to by the name Hammam, why it was related to him, why Imam Ali was hesitating, and what were the things that Imam had related to him and told him. At least that much is something which we can say that we were able to accomplish. So I just want to very briefly, in maybe 4 to 5 minutes, briefly go over recap of what we discussed in these first 12 nights, and inshallah after that some of the things that I wanted to bring for tonight in this concluding majlis, and inshallah we'll end with the masaib. So just very briefly, obviously out of these 110, I promised that we'll get to as many as possible. There was no way that we would be able to cover all 110 of them. Yes, we could just read all 110, maybe in 5 minutes, but it will not do justice just to go ahead and read. Kalam of Amir al-Mu'mineen is so extensive that, Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili has to write 20 volumes of tashrih and commentary to go ahead and explain these khutub and to explain these letters and to explain these short sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. While today people may be questioning the validity of Nahj-ul-Balagha and the khutbahs of Nahj-ul-Balagha, Sunni alim Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili has written 20 volumes, entire life's project to go ahead and serve for this particular book. And then there are many other authors who have spent their entire lives explaining these words of wisdom. So very quickly, we began this khutbah where Amir al-Mu'mineen started out talking about muttaqeen, that hum ahlul fadail. Muttaqeen are those who are possessors of fadilat, because they are followers of those who are hum ahlul fadail, those who possess fadilat. Therefore, they also possess fadilat. Why? Because of certain reasons, some reason. Mantiquhum as-sawab, because their speech is without any error. Malbisuhum al-iqtisad, their dress is in moderation. Mashi'uhum al-tawadu, their walk, their gait is with humility, with humbleness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do not discriminate others, and they do not discriminate the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the extent they don't walk on earth exultantly to disrespect this earth, and therefore their mashi, their walk is also with humility and humbleness. They keep their eyes closed to that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed haram for them. They put their ears to that knowledge which is beneficial to them. And then Imam went, they remain same in the times of trial or in the times when they are going through ease and without any difficulty. These are some of the sifat that was discussed in the first portion of it. That how muttaqeen, they don't change regardless of what the situation may be in front of them. It wasn't for the fixed period of time. Their spirits will not remain in this body. This body of ours is a vessel which is keeping the spirit in it. And if it wasn't for the time that Allah has fixed for every individual, the span of life that they have, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for them, their souls will not even remain in their bodies for a twinkling of an eye, because of the eagerness to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to go ahead and be in the paradise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also from the punishment that is waiting for those who are going to be in there. And therefore Imam talks about that everything appears small to them, very little to them, without any worth or value to them, because they see the magnitude and the magnanimity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once that greatness sits inside their hearts, everything else is considered to be without any value. They don't consider anything to be worth anything. They see themselves enjoying in paradise while in this world, and at the same time they see themselves to be suffering in the hell while in this world, because both of these tastes could be made available. Their needs are scanty. Khafifa, their needs, that means whatever their needs are only the legitimate needs. They don't go after any other needs that they really don't need to have, and therefore their needs are very little. Their souls are chaste. Their word afif that Imam ﷺ uses for them, they endured hardship temporarily so that they may have the secure long-term comfort for them in the life to come. So for a little while in this particular life, they're ready to endure the hardship that it possesses and gives it to them, so that they can secure a long-term comfortable future for themselves. The world aimed at them, but they did not aim at the world. Yes, world was coming after them, but they kept running away from it. It captured them, but they still got out of the captivity of the world by paying some sort of fidya, by giving some sort of ransom. They recite portions of Quran standing up at night time, And when they recite it, they recite this Quran in a well-measured way. Quran creates grief in them. Why? Because this is a means for them to communicate and speak to the Lord who has created them. Sort of like a letter that you receive from a loved one whom you haven't seen in a while. When you look at this letter, when you read this letter, you read it over and over again because it reminds you of your beloved. And that is the feeling that they get out when they are reciting this holy Quran. They seek cure for their ailments in Quran because Quran has dawa for all of the illnesses that exist. Quranic verses create eagerness for them. When they read the ayat about paradise, they're eager to go to paradise. When they read the ayat about the hell and the severity of it, they feel the pain of it while in this world. And lastly, they fear when anyone speaks of them highly, saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, I know better about myself than these individuals. Therefore, what they associate with me, don't count those things towards me and don't hold me accountable of that." These were the 22 attributes that, alhamdulillah, in 11 nights prior to this, we were able to discuss them in some, little bit commentary and details that I was able to gather through the commentaries that are already available. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With that muqaddimah of what was discussed in the first 11 nights, so if you weren't here in the first 11 nights, you got the gist of what was talked about, what was discussed, and the details of it, inshallah, is available if anyone is interested. Therefore, we look at as to because for a lot of people, the 10 days are Muharram. So someone said, on the night of Ashur, that we found those people whom we had lost last year after Muharram. That means we got to see them again. So that's okay. Some people are only, capable of coming when it's the important nights. For example, when it's the 21st or the 23rd night of Ramadan, when it's Ta'asua or Ashura of Muharram, only they have the ability to come. And again, not judging them. That is the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada that brings them. Nothing else could be the factor. It's the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada. They definitely did not come for the speaker, nor the reciters, nor for tabarruk, nothing else, nor for the accommodations. The only reason that they were able to come was the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada that brought them, at least even for those couple of nights that they were able to come. But for some people, Muharram ends with Ashur, it seems. And if that is the case, although, it goes up until the Ayyam Azah continue, in some cultures, for example, in the Iranian culture, it goes up until the 28th of Safar. Because really, after the Jahlum of Sayyid al-Shuhada, within a few days is the wafat of the Holy Prophet. So they extended until the wafat of the Holy Prophet, and pretty much the Azah in Iranian culture ends after the wafat of the Holy Prophet. What does that mean? That means they go back to, having, if they weren't getting married, they go back to having the, functions of joy and happiness after this. But in our culture, obviously, we wait until the 8th of Rabiul Awwal, commemorating the shahadat of our 11th Imam. And eventually after that, the Azah ends, in our culture. So it has to do with the culture. And therefore, this is how we extend this Majlis Azah. Someone said, Imam Hussein died on one day. His Shahada took place on one day. Why do you commemorate 2.5 months to, commemorate the Shahadat and mourn for Sayyid al-Shuhada for 2.5 months? The response is that even this 2.5 months is not enough. 2.5 months is still not sufficient. The entire year would be insufficient to remember and to commemorate and mourn and weep for Sayyid al-Shuhada for the sacrifice that he has given. Because we owe everything to him. If it wasn't for that sacrifice, you and I would not be sitting following the deen that the Holy Prophet had brought. It is quite a possibility. We would be amongst the sufuf of those so-called Muslims, not realizing that how the blood of Sayyid al-Shuhada and his companions irrigated this deen and brought it back to the norm again. I'll recite in Masaib, a person asked our 4th Imam in Kufa, Who won the battle? Imam responded by saying, wait until the muadhin says the azan. If the name of my grandfather is still there, then the answer will be very clear to you that yes, we won the battle. Yet it may seem like that, all our family has been killed, and apparently it's a defeat because none of our men are alive and we are being brought in as captives. That's how you look at the victory or the loss. But that's how you're looking at it from the temporarily in that view of yours. But in the long term, you'll see who has won this battle. But Imam gave an answer right away. That when the adhan is said and the name of the Holy Prophet is still there, that means we have won this battle. So therefore, we see that after all of these things and after all of these events, that Imam Hussein, whose sacrifice is so big that even 2.5 months are not enough. But we go to that extent because there are some munasabat that come along the way so that we can go ahead and include them in this farsh aza, in this majalis aza. But I'll give you an example by which you'll understand that even these 2.5 months are not enough. The Holy Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and this riwayat could be found in Majma'ul Zawaid of Haythami and Mustadrak as-Sahihain by Nishapuri, Hakim Nishapuri. Both of these, ulama of Ahl Sunnah have narrated this hadith. That the Holy Prophet was playing with his grandson. And while how many of you are grandfathers, you play with your grandchildren and the lutf that you get out of it. While he was doing that, he receives a message from Jibreel Amin and he starts crying. When he cries, at one time a child cries. When a child cries, you go up and you see what happened. Maybe he got hurt or something. But at one point, an adult or elderly cries. That makes you worry. Why an older person is crying? That's a moment of worry. So you go ahead and ask them, what is it that happened to you? So similarly, the women who were in the house, amongst the azwaj, for example, and the house, as you can see when you visited the shrine of, Masjid al-Nabawi, you've seen that the houses were all interconnected. That the azwaj who were there, when they heard this, they came and they said, may our life be ransom over you, Rasulullah. What makes you cry? He said, Jibreel came and said to me that your grandson right here in your hand will be martyred. He showed me the land where he'll be martyred. And that made me cry. When the azwaj heard this, they started crying. And then, when Rasulullah went outside, his companions who could see the signs of him having cried just recently, they asked the same question and he narrated the same thing. They started crying as well. So the reason we cry is after the shahadat of Imam Hussein. Rasulullah, his azwaj and his great companions wept for Imam Hussein 50 years prior to his shahadat. Secondly, when Rasulullah before Hijrat lost two of his greatest help and supporters in the form of Hazrat Khadija salamullah alayha and Hazrat Abu Talib salamullah alayhi, when these both individuals who died a natural tabi'i death, they left the world, Rasulullah did not cry for one day or did not declare mourning for one day. Rather, it was Amul Huzn. The entire year was declared to be the year of grief. When those who helped Rasulullah in providing for this deen, whether moral or financial support, when they leave this world in a natural way, Rasulullah declares that to be Amul Huzn. When someone who protected, the one who is the misdaq of Ana min al-Hussein, that Rasulullah said that I am from Hussein, that means through Hussein my name will survive. When he is martyred in the way that he was, 2.5 months is not sufficient. If it's not Amul Huzn, it has to be beyond that. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So if for those it ends, for example, after Ashur, and for those it ends, for example, after Chihlam, and for those it ends after 28th of Safar, and for those it ends after 8th of Rabiul Awwal. What is it that it should have done to us that it comes in every year and every year? Therefore, we need to have some sort of inqilab and revolution within us. Reform, there's always need for reform within us. After every year, we stand out and we go through the mourning of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Because we relate those waqi'at that you have heard hundreds of times, that every time you hear it, it brings tears to your eyes. That's how difficult it is. You know, I say, well, any book that you read it once, you read it twice, maybe 3 or 4 times because you really like the book, and then obviously there's no charm in it. Quran is a book that you continue reading, read it over and over again, and every time you read, you gain something new from it. This zikr is something that you do once, you do twice, you continue on doing it, and every time you do it, it seems that it is fresh the first time that you heard it. That's the beauty of the zikr. So there should be some sort of inqilab that happens to us. There were few inqilabat that came after the events of Karbala. Because the Holy Prophet said, Inna liqatl al-Husayn hararatan fi qulub al-mu'minin la tabrudu abadan. That with the martyrdom of Hussein, there's this energy, this light, this hararat, this heat in the hearts of mu'mineen which will never extinguish. It will remain there. And that hararat is in your hearts. That every time you hear the masa'ib, that hararat ignites and you shed tears for Sayyid al-Shuhada. You hear the name, it brings that memory back to you. But the Shair said, Shanidan ke bovad misle didan. Listening can never be equal to seeing it. You and I heard the masa'ib, yet we weep, and some of us weep the way they weep. Imagine if you had seen the masa'ib. Just imagine then how would you, and this is where you realize these personalities. The wujud and the personality of Sayyidah Zainab, that after having seen all of this, after having endured all of this, how she's the commander and she's the leader. Hadith-e-ishq, do babas, Karbala wa Dimashq, yeki Hussain rakam kard, digari Zainab. That there are 2 sections of the story. One was written by Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussain. The second was written by Janab Zainab. So there were many inqilabat that came after the inqilab of Karbala. There were these changes that came, some for political reasons, others were genuine. For example, the Qayem of Ainul Warda, the Tawwabin, that who felt right after the Shahadat of Imam Hussain, this guilt inside, that they wanted to go ahead and take the revenge. It was not organized properly, so they all ended up getting killed. And it did not really prolong the resistance from them. The leader of them was amongst those signatories who had written a letter to Imam Hussain from Kufa before Imam's arrival, Sulaiman ibn Surad al-Khuza'i. Then you have obviously Qayem Mukhtar Thaqafi, which was well organized. You know, the way he designed it, the way he organized it. He actually even told the Tawwabin to not go, because in this way you'll get yourself killed and nothing else. If you want to take the revenge, then you have to organize yourself. But obviously, because of the guilt that they had, they did not want to wait. They wanted to get rid of this guilt from them for not having been with Imam Hussain in Karbala. So Qayem Mukhtar Thaqafi comes into play. And then you have Qayem of Zayd ibn Ali, son of our 4th Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin. One of his sons is Zayd, whom we know as Zayd-e-Shaheed. That he stood up with the permission and the endorsement and the support of his father, and he went ahead and performed this Qayem. His son, Zayd's son, Yahya ibn Zayd ibn Ali, he also stood up taking the revenge of the martyrs of Karbala. And then there were other political movements that came in to show that we are standing against Banu Umayyah to go ahead and take the revenge of the martyrdom of Sayyid al-Shuhada in Karbala, such as the Abbasids. They came in with what? That this is the haqq of Ahlul Bayt and we have to return what they did in Karbala. We're taking the revenge of that, but obviously that was just a political move that they had. So you see that there are many good resistance that came after. every year we do go through Karbala, we go through these Ayyam-e-Aza, there should be some sort of resistance that comes into us as well. There should be some sort of reform that reignites in us as well, so that you and I have the ability to live with it for the entire year before we go ahead and welcome these Ayyam-e-Aza once again. Amongst those things was Waqi Harra. Waqi Harra, which took place in the city of Madinatul Munawwara, and 1 year after the Waqi of Karbala. That there's a person by the name of Abdullah ibn Hanzala, who is the organizer and the leader of this whole Waqi Harra. And he was the one who basically stimulated this into people, getting them ready. But there were many other factors that came about. Who is this Abdullah ibn Hanzala? He's the son of the Sahabi of the Holy Prophet, Hanzala, Ghasilul Malaika, who was martyred in the Battle of Uhud. That he had recently gotten married. Then he came directly to the Battle of Uhud and he attained martyrdom. Rasulullah said, Hanzala is being given ghusl by the Malaika. So that's Hanzala. His son is Abdullah. And this Abdullah, you say, well, why didn't he go along with Imam Hussein when Imam was leaving Medina? Because Imam left in secrecy. And it was primarily the family members of Imam that traveled with him. Majority of the ashab came later on. It was, Zuhair ibn Qayem did not even meet Imam until Imam was near the manazil of Karbala. Habib ibn Madahir came from Kufa. Many of them came from other places. So it was only the family that had left the city of Medina. So therefore, Abdullah ibn Hanzala was not in there. But what led to this, this story of Waqi Harra, what was the instigator, how this whole thing unfolded? And we'll get to some of the details of it, but I'll go through it very quickly because I know I've taken a lot of your time. Reasons behind this qiyam. One of the reasons behind this qiyam that is mentioned is that in Medina there were ashab who had seen Rasulullah personally, such as Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, such as Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. And there are many others that I have the names of that were there from that time, and they were well respected. And when they heard about the shahadat of Imam Hussein, this right away ignited the anger that the Holy Prophet used to kiss his grandson on his mouth, in his cheeks, on his neck, and he used to love them in this particular way. And that son of Rasulullah, grandson of Rasulullah, has been martyred. It was Wawaila. So that was one of the reasons why there was this whole revolution that came in. And in some riwayat, Ansabul Ashraf Balazari writes that actually head of Imam Hussein was sent to Medina. In his riwayat that he writes that the head of Imam Hussein was actually sent to Medina. And when the head of Imam Hussein arrives in Medina, according to Balazari, that also ignited when they saw the head of Sayyidul Shuhada. Number two, Hazrat Aqil has a daughter by the name Luqman. She gathered the women of Medina near the grave of the Holy Prophet after hearing the martyrdom of Sayyidul Shuhada for the eulogies for these majalis. And that picked up momentum to the extent that increased in numbers and people started learning about it, hearing about it. The musibat was told to everyone, and right away this ignited and they wanted to do something about what had happened. Number three, Imam himself, the fourth Imam, when he arrives back in Medina, he himself on numerous occasions speaks to the people, telling them what he saw from his own eyes. That was also something which broke the hearts of the people and reignited this. And there was this, hadaf and objective to go ahead and take the revenge. Number four, we see that after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, according to some research, houses of Banu Hashim were actually desecrated, burned down. There were many members of Banu Umayyah and Banu Marwan. They were living in Medina at that time, 1,000 of them, that did this thing. And therefore, that also ignited that we need to go ahead and take a revenge. At this point, Yazid realized that there's a momentum building up in Medina. And he wants to suppress it before it reaches anywhere. So therefore, he sends forth to the Wali of Medina to send me those people who are really instigating this. Who are these people? One of them was Abdullah ibn Hanzala. Second was Zubair ibn Mandar ibn Zubair. Third was Amr Makhzumi, Abdullah ibn Amr Makhzumi. These three were called by Yazid to Sham. They go to Sham. Yazid greets them well. tries to bribe them, gives each one of them 100,000 dirhams so that he's able to buy them out. But not knowing what they have heard from Imam Zainul Abidin, what they heard from the eulogies, and even if the head was sent, what brought to this rage and this anger that was created. So they left the city of Sham and they come back to Medina. When they come back to Medina, people said to them that you went, you saw Khalifatul Muslimin. What took place? Can you explain to us? These are the words that are written in Tarikh, Al-Kamil Fit Tarikh. Sunni historians write this. That Abdullah ibn Hanzala, upon returning, he says, قَدَمْنَا مِنْ عِنْدِ رَجُلٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ دِينٍ. We are coming back from a person who has no deen whatsoever. يَشْرُبُ الْخَمْرِ وَيَضْرِبُ بِالطَّنَابِيرِ وَيَلْعَبُ بِالْكِلَابِ. He drinks alcohol, he plays with najis animals, and there's singing and there's dance. All of that stuff that you can associate is now being associated with Khalifatul Muslimin. And then he says, Abdullah ibn Hanzala says, Yada'u salat, he does not pray. Nahnu khala'nahu, we have deposed him from his position of khilafat. We do not consider him to be the Khalifatul Muslimin, and we have deposed him of that position. Now we need your bay'at so that we can stand against them. And right away, people seeing this response that even though these people were bribed, they were given 100,000 dirham, it did not change their mind, and they're still steadfast in what they had began. So they said, Ma kharajna ala Yazid ibn Muawiyah hatta khifna an nurmiya bil hijarat min as-sama. He said, Abdullah ibn Hanzala says, he said, we did not leave the company of Yazid, and when we were coming back, we were scared. We were worried that we met such an individual who tried to bribe us, that this, although we're not accepting it, but Allah may send down hijar and the stones from the sky, which falls upon us, killing us, that why did we even go and see such an individual? We were scared on the way that Allah may send the hijar and the stones from these skies. So then obviously people went ahead and did this bayat on his hand. After this, they went ahead and deposed the governor of Medina. They took nearly 1,000 people of Banu Umayyah and Banu Marwan in captivity. Yazid over here again refers to the same person, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. He says to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad that we need you to go to Medina to take care of what's happening, the resistance that is coming up. I tried it, but I could not suppress it by buying these people out. Now you have to go ahead and do this. These are the words that documented in the books of history by a person. You've heard about Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, his atrocities, what he did, and Mukhtar, the way he took the revenge. But we all heard of that. But these are the words that Ubaidullah says. He says, Wallahi la ajma'atuha tahuma lil fasiq. By God, I'm not going to go ahead and couple these two things. What two things? Qatlu ibn Rasulullah wa ghazwul Kaaba. One, killing the son of the Holy Prophet, and second, now going up against the city of the Holy Prophet and against the Kaaba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, I'm not going to do these two things after what I have already done. So he excused himself and he did not take part. Now Yazid has to do something to get someone else into doing this. So he finds another individual. But before he finds this individual, he needs an army to be ready to go ahead and do this. Because look, Medina is something which holds reputation. Again, as I mentioned, there were Ansar, there were Ashab, there were Muhajirin that were still living there. Those who have seen Rasulullah, those who have narrated from the Holy Prophet. In fact, the riwayat of Rasulullah says, Man akhafa ahl al-Madina akhafahu Allah wa la'natullah alayhim. That those who try to scare the people of Medina, the residents of Medina, Allah will scare them and Allah's la'nat be upon them. They've heard all of these things. Now Yazid has to sort of create some movement. So he says one morning after waking up that I've seen a dream. That the tree in Baqi al-Gharqad is crying and is saying, Ya litharat Uthman. That who is going to take the revenge of the blood of Uthman? Now, soon hearing the name of the third caliph, right away people are ready. that it is the dream of, according to them, Khalifatul Muslimin. And there must be some weight in it. So now people are ready. They are ready to go ahead and engage into this battle with their leader, whom Muslim ibn Uqba, that Yazid has appointed. And this is where they come to Medina. Now Marwan was able to bribe someone, although the people of Medina, they had dug the trenches around the city so that Yazid army cannot come inside the city of Medina. But Marwan, with the bribing of someone, one of the local people, guides the army inside the city of Medina. And when they come inside the city of Medina, the things that they had done. Yazid, what he did was something which his father had done already. That when Ammar Yasir was killed in the Battle of Siffin, people had heard the riwayat that the Rasulullah had said, إِنَّمَا تَقْتُلُكَ الْفِئَةُ الْبَاغِيَةُ. O Ammar, you will be killed by a rebel group. When he was killed, right away people said, we killed him. Rasulullah has said that. Muawiyah right away changed the perspective. He said, no, we didn't kill him. Those who brought him, they are the ones responsible for killing him. Ali and the followers of Ali, Ahl Iraq, they were the ones who brought Ammar over here. So that means they are responsible for killing him. We are not the ones who had taken his life. Innama. So therefore, right away he changes the perspective. Similarly, Yazid does the same thing. Same trick is played. So when these people, this army by Muslim ibn Uqba enters into the city of Medina, they start by killing, and it is mentioned in the books of Ahl Sunnah that after destroying Medina and making havoc in the city, converting the masjid of Rasulullah into a stable where animals were in it for 3 straight days. No salat was offered in it. The city was desecrated. The women and children were, approached and they were killed and persecuted. And how there were tajawuzat that were done, which resulted in the year to come. And how they dealt with those who were the ashab of the Holy Prophet. How they dealt with those who were the Ansar, who had taken part in some of the battles of Islam, such as Battle of Badr and Uhud and the other battles that had taken place. In fact, when they arrive in the house of Abu Sayyid al-Khudri, they say, who are you? He mentions that I am Abu Sayyid al-Khudri. He said, yeah, we've heard great deal of ahadith narrated through you from Rasulullah. So we'll spare your life. But what we'll do, they still persecuted him. They pulled the hair off of his face. This is where, one of the writers of Ahl Sunnah, he writes this in this way. He says, Waq'atul Harra. Who says this? Suyuti in his Tarikhul Khulafa. Suyuti is one of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah. He said, Waq'atul Harra wa ma adraka ma waq'atul Harra. Yudriku wa la yusaf. Waqi Harra, and what do you know about Waqi Harra? You know how the ayat of Quran is? Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr, wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Al-qari'atu mal-qari'ah, wa ma adraka mal-qari'ah. In the same way he says, Waqa'atul Harra, wa ma adraka ma waqa'atul Harra. That you want to know about Waqi Harra? Yudriku wa la yusaf. We experienced it, but we cannot explain to you what had taken place. And then this was not the end of it. This person, Muslim ibn Uqba, was asked, what are the future plans? He said, the next is to go ahead and destroy the Kaaba. And that you saw in the very next movement was towards Mecca, and how the destruction of Kaaba also took place. And when someone said, you're going to go ahead and destroy the house of Allah, he responded by saying, the hukm of Amir is above anything that exists. Now you see the mentality is there today. That desecration of the graves, destruction of the graves and the holy sites, that is the mentality of Yazid. That is the mentality of Muslim ibn Uqba, who says that Kaaba has no value in front of the hukm of Amir, hukm of Khalifatul Muslimin. And therefore, there were many atrocities that were done in these years. Many people had lost their lives. Hujr ibn Adi al-Kindi was also, the martyrdom took place, was also the result of this. Umar ibn Hamiq, He was also one of the Sahabi of the Holy Prophet. He was killed and his head was severed and sent back to his family. Family says, غَيَّبْتُمُوهُ طَوِيلًا. You kept him away from us for a long time. وَدَيْتُمُوهُ. But you sent only partially him back. That means you just sent his head back to us. Many people were buried alive. All of these atrocities had taken place, and this was the resistance that took place and ended in Waqi Harra that happened exactly 1 year after the Waqi of Karbala. Indeed, this is one of the resistances that took place right after Karbala. And therefore, this is what the message has been, that after these first 10 days, for some it is these first 10 days, for some it is 40 days, for some it is after the Chehlum of Sayyid al-Shuhada, for some it is after the 8th of Rabiul Awwal, that there should be some sort of revolution that comes into us. That we come into this month of Muharram, we weep and cry, because weeping and cry, what does it do? It softens your heart, right? No matter how hard, stern-hearted a person is, when they hear these masaib, it makes them soft. And when your heart is soft, what is it? Is susceptible, is capable of accepting things. And when you're able to accept things which may be tough at times, then you go ahead. What does it say? Riwayat or ulama say that when you give a gift to your daughter, that is the best time to go ahead and give her the advice. When you bring some sort of gift to your child, that is the best time to go ahead and advise them about something. If you give them advice at another time, it may not have the effect. But because they have received something from you, the psychological effect is that they will associate that advice with that gift that it has received. And therefore that advice will remain with them forever. So you and I, our hearts are soft, especially during this month. And therefore it is susceptible and it's ready to accept any sort of wasiyat, any sort of nasihat and advice. And therefore these ayyam will come, these ayyam will go away, and we'll remember and we'll come back again to the same farsh aza if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that tawfiq once again. But just imagine that today we call it to be the soyam of the martyrs of Karbala. What is the meaning of soyam? Soyam usually is after the 3rd day of tadfeen. Who's been buried in Karbala? Karbala mein koi dafan hua hai? Has there been anyone who's been buried in Karbala in these couple of days that you're calling it to be the soyam of Sayyid al-Shuhada? Usually the soyam means after the tadfeen. But yes, after the martyrdom, this is the 3rd day. Today, obviously, when you have the 12th of Muharram, is the night of 13th. And this is where we see that on the 12th morning, the caravan entered the city of Kufa. And when they entered into the city of Kufa, how they were brought in, how they were entering, and there were people who were waiting to see this caravan come in, and the weeping that began. Janab Zainab, who gave a khutbah, she said, "You are crying over us? Then who was it that killed us? Aren't you the ones who betrayed the son of the daughter of Rasulullah? Now you're weeping over us?" She says in her khutbah, "May you cry more and there's less joy for you." And when she began this khutbah, the riwayat mentions that everyone was silent. There was one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Abdullah ibn Afif, who had lost his eyes. He used to walk around with his help of his daughter. When he came across, he heard the khutbah of Janab Zainab. When he heard the khutbah, he said to his daughter, "Has Qayamat taken place? Kya aaj Qayamat ka din hai?" She said, "No, Baba, this is not Qayamat, but there's a group of captives that have been brought." He said, "But I hear the voice of my Maula Amir al-Mu'mineen." She said, "I don't know about the Maula Amir al-Mu'mineen, but I hear and I see there's a lady who's giving a lecture." Now Abdullah ibn Afif realizes the reason that he lost both of his eyes fighting alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen. that in Kufa will come one day when the daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen will speak in the tongue of Amirul Mu'mineen, but she will not have anything to cover her head with. So that I don't have these eyes, that I would lay my eyes onto the unveiled head of Zainab. Ajrukum Allah. Many other events that took place, that a person by the name Habiba, who was brought to Medina when she was young, and she was given cure. Some riwayat mentioned that she was blind and she was given cure through Imam Hussein. And she was the one who was living in Kufa when Janab Zainab came with Amirul Mu'mineen in the 37 Hijri. And she remained there for 3 years, the Janab Zainab, and she used to attend the lectures of Janab Zainab about Tafsir al-Quran. She sends some food, seeing that the people seem that they are hungry and they're thirsty. But when the food was brought, Kulthum and Zainab said that sadaqah is haram for us. Habiba says, I know there's only one family upon whom sadaqah is haram, and that is the family of the Holy Prophet. Who are you? Janab Zainab said, Habiba, you did not recognize me. This is your Shahzadi Zainab. Janab Habiba said, I know one thing, that wherever Zainab goes, Hussein is always there. Or wherever Hussein goes, Zainab is always there. If you are here, where is my Mawla and Aka Hussein? Zainab points towards the spear upon which the head of Hussein was. But this is where, with the Mu'jaza and Ijaz, our fourth Imam makes his way to Karbala. When Imam Hussein entered the land of Karbala, he bought that land for 60,000 dirham. And he gave it, and he bought it from Bani Asad, and he bought it. After buying it, he gave it to Bani Asad, saying what? Saying that we will be killed in this land, and therefore our request is that once we are killed and they have left, that at least you do favor to us, that you go ahead and bury our deceased over here. And therefore Bani Asad came out after the second day and the third day, after seeing that Yazidi have left, Umar Asad have left, and the army of Ibn Ziyad have left. Therefore they came out. They knew that Ibn Ziyad and Umar Asad, they did not leave any of their men. They buried them, or they took them with them to Kufa. All that remained was the bodies of the companions of Imam Hussein and the people of the family of Imam Hussein. And therefore they come out. Imam Hussein had already bought this land, requested Bani Asad to bury. And also what Riwayah says, that Imams had said to them that when my Zawar come, make sure that you feed them, that you provide drink for them. For 3 days the Zawar would come, make sure that you provide. As Sayyid al-Shuhada, O Hussein, even till this day your Zawar, when they come to Karbala, they are provided, and that is the barakat from that day which continues. Ajrukum Allah. The elderly men, women and children of Bani Asad, when they came out, then they saw it was safe. They wanted to bury the bodies, but how would they recognize the bodies? There aren't any heads on the body. You either recognize with the head or with the clothes. Even these ashqiya, they did not leave any clothing on the bodies of the shuhada. So one of the elderly of the Bani Asad says, let's build a big grave, which is called Ganj Shahidam, which is near the present Zari of Imam Hussein, and let's put all the bodies in this. As they were doing this, they saw a man riding a camel approaching fast. They got scared initially, thinking maybe one of the members of Umar Asad's army is coming. But then as man approached, he said, hold on, wait for me before you bury them. Imam Zainul Abidin comes. They don't realize who this man is. They said, we were burying these people, but we could not realize who it is because we cannot associate them. There aren't any heads attached to them. Imam says, bury them over here. Bury my uncle over, bury this person over here. Bury the children over here. here. These ashab, bury them over here. Imam helped burying every one of the shuhada. And then he said, there are two more that I don't need your help with. I'm going to bury them myself. Imam says that he goes towards Furat. He picks up the janaza of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. He said, we could not, Banu Asad said, we could not pick up the bodies ourselves, but we saw this man pick up the body by himself. He brings the body of Imam Hazrat Abbas, buries, goes inside the grave. We see that Imam did not come out for a while. The Ravi says, I approached the grave. I heard Imam Zainul Abidin is speaking to Abbas, oh Chacha Abbas, oh my uncle, oh Zainab and Kulthum. They have entered Kufa and there's no veils on their heads. Ajrukum Allah. Then he comes to the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Banu Asad comes. He said, whose body is this? He said, this is the body of my father, Hussein, the son of Ali, the son of Fatima, the grandson of the Holy Prophet. This is where Banu Asad realized that this man is the son of Imam Hussein. Banu Asad asked him one last thing. One last thing, tell us that these body marks that we see are either from swords or spears or the arrows, but what are these marks of bruises on the shoulder and the back of Hussein? It says, do you not know my father every night in Medina would carry a sack of food going around the city serving the needy and the poor. Those people have also been deprived of the generosity of Allah la'natullah al-qawm al-zalimin sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyuman qalbin yanqalibun inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Oh Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. Oh Allah, we've committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Oh Allah, deal with us on the day of judgment with your mercy and not your justice. Oh Allah, make us the true azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the misal and the examples of Shuhada Karbala. Oh Allah, give us the strength and ability to follow the footsteps of Masumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Oh Allah, hasten the dhuhur and the reappearance of our weighted Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Matam Hussain.